Okay, we are, yes. Because then we're being this thing. Yes, thank you. Excuse me.
How are you from? Yes, they've gotten around for them.
I love it.
No.
I'm glad
see
we
it.
teaching Debbie Cooper.
Yeah.
She's teaching fourth grade.
Wow, the trials, we've been coming on strong now.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding.
Oh, I love it.
That's great.
Which, oh my God.
I wish I could have, I was actually at the football games anyway.
Of course, there are always
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's always dissertation.
I'm probably somebody from, I mean, is it Oakland University, the one that's in Rochester? Gosh, for some reason I feel like there's somebody up there. Because I always get the mental note, because I always get the issues with like Oakland University and Rochester. I always get the system, you know? With the little body.
Right, that's right.
Oh, really?
I just want to clear.
But it's sort of
that were no longer supported. You know what I mean? She was one of them. Just kept asking herself, what else do I do?
Just go.
And she at some point,
You know you're gonna go anyway. That's pretty funny. That's awesome. Yeah. Oh, so that's good. So I know Jennifer's going. And so to AER and so you're saying that you're. Hopefully, yeah. You guys still do that.
Yes. But any class that you take, that has something.
Yeah. Good. There's only a lot of people.
Yes, we have words.
Oh, that's not bad. That all sounds nice.
Yeah.
A year?
she still worked very closely with Susan.
Or who is an author.
I mean, in a number of them, but those are really the two, I guess, that I worked really closely with.
I mean, not funny. It's not funny at all.
That number is nice little linear progress.
Yeah.
Just have to say you have to do it all the time.
But it's not strong. Thanking me somewhere else.
Shane Rayburn. Hi, nice to meet you. Who is it? Feeling great. Feeling great.
Good.
For her.
Just take the bike up there and just go. Or is it not really right? Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yes.
We can get started then. Do you have any?
Thanks. Yeah. So he doesn't have that assignment up there. Yeah.
Maybe rented it out to a dress student.
So glad you're here.
I was just telling Cindy, I'm like the only undergraduate person in here.
That means that you're really in.
I know, I'm just
That's
These are very friendly.
No, the Georgia part.
Yeah, what part is it?
I'm Tyler. Nice to meet you.
hour.
I'll have to, that's okay, I'll look at it.
Nice to meet you.
We're trying to get 1 hour, since we're taking all the kids, we're trying to get a former babysitter who moved up there to watch the kids one night, so we can actually
Yes.
go out and like, I don't know if it'll work, we'll see.
Italian food galore.
Yeah.
Ooh, Italian food. I've heard Italian food in my ears. So Lindsay, is this your last year, or is it your first year?
First.
Yeah,
Have you enjoyed it?
I have.
All right.
It's been way easier than I thought it was going to be because I've had people that teach something.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the workshop. We will be discussing dress code for teachers and students. First of all, I would like to introduce our organization, Feminist Scholar Activists. Last year, we founded a student organization to use what we learned in our feminist scholarship, feminist research, in the practices that we have, and sort of bridging the gap between scholarship and activism, because I knew many colleagues in our department and in the college who do the feminist scholarship, but as I'm gonna talk about this special issue, I was seeing that, well, maybe we don't practice that as much. I happened to think about this dress code issue the first day I was serving as a supervisor for teacher candidates, and in the orientation I was observing that the instructor was telling students, everybody stand up, reach to the top, if anything is out, you are wearing an inappropriate clothes, bend over, if anything from your back is out, that's also inappropriate. And I was thinking, wow, what a horrible situation and what a crazy actually. If I was in those students' shoes, I would have just left the room. That was so offensive and so humiliating to me. And I was reminded of a couple of things. I am from Iran, and I have seen these dress code policies and the brutality and the violence associated with that. So this is this moral police, which is arresting a woman because she doesn't follow the dress code guideline. So dress code could be very violent and brutal, and I think we are also doing the same thing by having those dress code policies and putting teachers and the students in positions that they may lose their jobs, they may not get hired because they are not dressing appropriately, and that's also violence against women and groups of minorities. I was also reminded of this. How many of you remember these things in this country? Maybe your parents or your grandparents, they may remember these things. And now in 2015, we think that this is ridiculous, this is funny, to measure women's swimsuit on the beach and say whether that's appropriate or not. But still at school, in teacher education program, we are still doing the same thing. So maybe we are 50 years, 60 years, 70 years behind in human rights, in feminism, in our teacher education programs. And then I started asking myself and my colleagues silly questions. These are my silly questions, and I think because I was an outsider, that was okay for my colleagues to hear these questions. Is it normal to tell people what to wear? That seemed very normal for my colleagues. They said that's about professionalism. So they have to be professional, they have to dress up professionally. And I knew that that professionalism is about disciplining their bodies. We are trying to discipline those bodies. What do they think is wrong with our bodies? Why we should cover up, especially female bodies? Why do women have to cover up? Why do they? Is there anything wrong with those bodies? Are those bodies dangerous? So is there danger that they are afraid of? What is going to happen to students in the classroom if they don't follow dress codes? Is there a magic power in our bodies? So do we have a magic power if we reveal too much body in the classroom? Anything is going to happen that they don't want to happen? And these were my questions for my colleagues and for myself to answer and to think about. And I think that's why we have to discuss dress codes and we have to constantly ask these questions, because this is not normal to tell people what to wear. Isn't it sexist, racist, homophobic, or classist? I found this a few months ago in a school. This is about dress code for students. So you can see masculinity and femininity and class, race. So that's about normalizing and disciplining bodies. So maybe when we talk about dress code, we are inviting everyone and pushing everyone to fit in a category that they don't want and they don't fit. So with this, I would like to introduce our presenters today. Dr. Shane Rayburn is the principal at North Hall Middle School. Dr. Christine Malosi is an assistant professor at Curriculum and Instruction Department at University of Kentucky. Rachel Monet is a PhD candidate at Educational Theory and Practice at University of Georgia. And Dr. Stephanie Jones, who is a professor at Educational Theory and Practice Department. So in your packets, you have the agenda. After these presentations, short presentations, we will move to breakout sessions in 3 different rooms, and we will have pizza and drink there. There are some op-eds and 2 petitions that you can look and you can contribute to those petitions by signing. And there is a 1-page handout from International Federation of Human Rights, which is about the 35th year of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. So 35 years ago, this convention was signed by 187 countries in the United Nations, and there are only 7 countries who did not sign this convention, including the United States. The other countries are Iran, Sudan, South Sudan, and 3 other countries in the Caribbean islands. So I just put the first article from that convention, which is about discrimination, the definition of discrimination, and the illustration that they put for that, which is very related to the topic of our conversation tonight. Thank you.
If it suits you, I'm going to sit here and tell you a bit of a story. It is primarily Ariel's story, but before I tell you how this evolved to share a little bit about who I am and how pleased and honored I am to be with you. Lots of things that just were introduced happen regularly in middle school. It's called the dollar bill paper rule. Take the dollar bill, see how short the skirt, how short the so those are, it's kind of shocking. This is my second year at North Hall Middle. Fairly conservative, traditional. We want some continuity. We want things the same because that's safe. I was a little shocked and surprised actually how much I loved middle school kids because the school agenda lists all those things, and some things I didn't even know what they were. Like you can't wear leggings, jeggings, yoga pants. I mean, it was all spelled out in the agenda that was adopted by the school board. That sort of thing. Kids know. The holding the hands, that sort of thing happened. I was a little shocked and surprised at how often it was happening. What I find fascinating about middle schoolers are, okay, I'll follow that rule, but then I'm going to create another story that challenges your environment because I want to be who I am. So the title being the middle school masquerade, kids are going to do something to figure out who they are, their identity. So they're putting on masks and trying on things to really figure out this is who I am. So instead of fighting really against the dress code, in some ways they've been conditioned to, this is just the way that is. I know that I'm going to get called on that. So I'm going to take your dress code issue and twist it a little bit and talk about the things that aren't listed in the agenda. And for Ariel, it was hair color. It's not stated in the agenda, but Ariel started coloring her hair. Again, going, hey, pretty cool to me. But the teacher calls her on it, sends her to the office, and says, you can't have blue hair. You can't, if you can't grow it, and it's not a natural color, you can't have it. You can spend your days in ISS until you get a natural color hair. All of this happens while I'm away from the building. I come back, Ariel's sitting in ISS, Mom's mad. Here I am, this new principal trying to figure out where then is the democratic voice behind letting Ariel speak for herself. So Ariel did. I'm going to share her letter with you, and actually today she has purple hair. So that'll give you a little glimpse into what the decision was in the fall. But I told Ariel I was going to share her story, and she said, really, middle school kids really just want to be heard. And I think that was one of the lessons learned in her faculty is that they actually were heard. So, to whom it may concern, I, Ariel Owens, am concerned about the policy, including the dyeing of hair and only being able to dye normal colors. Dyeing my hair is one of my favorite things to do, and I think it's a wonderful way to express myself. This year, on October the 20th, I came to school with streaks of blue in the front of my hair, only to be surprised with the fact that I would have to change it back after one day or face the concluding days in ISS. This not only was a disappointing response, but a nearly impossible task to complete. Thankfully, my mom called the front office, and they decided it would be okay for me to keep my blue hair until the weekend when I had time to change it. The next day I was contacted and asked to take a chance and try to change this rule, so I happily obliged. Now, here's the kicker. It's not a rule in the agenda. It falls under this broad category called at the discretion of the principal. Let me tell you, it's huge. It catches anything in the sun. I'll continue the letter. Gandhi is known for his peaceful tactics. This is an 8th grade. Of protesting, and he once said, be the change you wish to see in the world. This is what everyone who made and or signed this petition has set out to do, By starting out locally in our schools, it gives kids the confidence to take bigger chances and help shape the world. For we will be in charge of taking care of it in generations to come. Personally, I want to be able to dye my hair because I think it looks pretty. People do it for multiple reasons, but all the same, we have one goal. As the classes of 2019-21, we feel dyeing hair is one way of showing who we are without hurting anyone or saying anything. It's one of the best ways of expressing ourselves, as explained in the next paragraph, when she's citing textual evidence. Quote, hair contains more information than everything that's been in your bloodstream. This proves that your hair shows more about who you are than anything else anyone will ever see. Taking the privilege away is taking away one of our ways to express ourselves, which, as a school, the staff influences greatly. Opposed to the assumptions, hair dye is not a distraction in class. With a very few exceptions, hair dye is only talked about after or before class begins. The only reason it's so big now is that it's banned. Before any of this had happened, people would glance and maybe give a compliment, and then it's over. It did not in any way inflict a hindrance on anyone's learning. So as a whole, we've taken steps in an attempt to make you realize this is something we want. We're asking for the policy about dyeing hair to be changed. We want the freedom to choose to show our individuality. I'd also like to note that many people who've been asked to sign the petition only said no for fear of being punished. I hope one day we'll be able to make some decisions as a group, the administration and students together. So in piggybacking, and I will share some of my response, but in piggybacking to moving from scholarship to activism, here's an 8th grader that's really taking the activism and saying, you gotta do something about this. This is a distraction, really? And the adults, lots of adults often say, this is a distraction because I'm not gonna play. Everybody else is okay. And there was this great fear, and I guess by now he's probably figured out that I let her do it. I let her keep her hair. There's this great fear in my faculty that they said, oh my gosh, you know what, this is gonna open up. We're gonna have a rainbow of colors now. Is that a bad thing? No. Yes. Do we have a rainbow of colors? No, but you have some very bright, intelligent kiddos that are taking a risk. The kicker is that when I met with Ariel and the 3 other girls that had written letters and all read all theirs, one of their letters said, you know that green mohawk you wear? That's more a distraction to us. You know those Converse shoes? Do other principals wear Converse shoes? I should have my Converse on tonight. She really challenged me to think about who I was as an individual, as a principal. I don't want to be the stiff principal. I don't want to be unapproachable. So wearing Converse, they noticed immediately. Wearing the green mohawk on Fridays, all day long, which is your head, but they noticed and said, people would you let people challenge your individuality? So a couple of weeks back, we had our advanced ed accreditation group come through. Ariel knew that I was on one of the committees to present. So we had these people and she came up and she said, so, I hear you're presenting to that accrediting thing. Yep. She said, you gonna wear your Converse? Am I going to wear my Converse or my wingtips? I wore my Converse. It got the attention of these folks, and yet here are middle school kids really taking an active part. They sat there in my office and said, we didn't think you would read. We didn't think you would listen. We can't believe we're sitting in your office and you're actually thinking and talking to us about this. So I have written a 2-page letter in response to them. So I'll share a little bit. I won't read all of it to you, but I'll share a little bit, and then I'll tell you Ariel's response. I said, thank you for your letters expressing your concerns about a recent administrative decision made regarding your hair color. Your letters represent exactly what I shared yesterday with my wife. We talked about the predicament, and I realized that if my own daughter wanted to express herself in that matter, I would want her to have that freedom. I stated to my wife, I hope that Ms. Owens will self-advocate and come talk to me about the issue. We all can learn something important in the process of understanding. I've had several exchanges with colleagues over the last several days and realized this really is an unnecessary battle that drains our energy. I go on to share a little bit about my own personal mission and promise that I have posted outside my door, and I'm really having quite convictions about my actions have to match what I've made promises to these students for. By the way, my wife said that if it had to be natural colors, she would have done like half black, half blonde. Would that be okay? Would it be distracting? So we had lots of conversation in our house too. I finally finish and say, you can see I am here for students, for you. My goal is to embrace diversity, be open to learning from students, empower young people to change the world. This mission and set of promises are indeed set to help me stay accountable to my heart and my head. I admit at times with the busyness of school and the distractions of living in a fast-paced world that adults become distracted. We impose rules that perhaps do not align with our belief systems, and we may not even realize it. I'm guilty of that at times. It's with this premise that I'm now stating to you that we'll allow a rainbow of hair colors without discrimination, and so far as it does not truly disrupt the classroom. Your claim is well argued, and I appreciate you drawing from primary sources of evidence as well as using me as your personal examples. Quote, something I must point out is our principal's hair or wigs. You know, the neon green one you wear at school, isn't it a violation of the rules? I consider myself a unique principal, and indeed my ways are often pushing the edges of what's acceptable. I thrive and distinctly separate myself from the mainstream administrator. I am different too, you're right. Just think, I'm a principal who wears Converse nearly every day rather than wingtip dress shoes. I'm encouraged that students like you prove to me that our future is bright. You're willing to take on the establishment and challenge old ways to seek out better ways that will help you thrive in an ever-changing world. You've demonstrated social activism as you have the courage to speak up for yourself and others. And I can conclude with some things. I think what was striking me, though, is that all of a sudden, other students notice what she did. I've created chaos before. I probably need to make sure my tag's turned around, that I should have made up a name. But now we have kids that in the past had piercings. There's nothing in the code of conduct that says you can't, but it's always been, no, you can't have piercings, you can't have gauges, because that's the distraction. So we are in the throes now of our next set of challenges to that. But somehow, some way, we've got to figure out, and for the middle school kid that is living that masquerade, we've got to figure out a way that they find themselves. They're going to find another path. It's not dress code. It's going to be hair. It's going to be piercings. So thanks for the opportunity just to share the story. I really would have loved for her to be sitting here telling you that she has purple hair this week.
Christy? Yes. Then on to the next. Okay, that'll be perfect.
Right, so I know that we, I tend to drift with my
talking. So I'm reading my paper today because I know that it's going to be something I want to focus on time, basically. So you might notice a theme in all this also. Another fall semester, another calisthenics demonstration in service of teacher dress. Ladies, bend over at the waist, squat, reach high, sit like a pretzel, stand up on a chair, twist, get down on all fours, stand tall. Any cleavage? Any whale tail? Any navel? Any camel toe? Can we see that shoulder tattoo? Any bra straps? No? Good. Oh, and guys, remember to tuck in your shirts. Before field placements, I see teacher educators show college women these rigorous moves to prevent questionable teacher attire, buoyed by words such as, we don't want you to get in trouble. Treat it like a job interview. We want you to be professional. What indeed does it mean for a woman teacher to be professional? Why does it concern such personal things as underwear? When I was a classroom teacher, a student's mom pulled me aside because she overheard her 12-year-old son and friends admit that they could see my underwear rise above my waistband of my pants. The mom seemed maternally concerned, not so much for her son, but for me. The mom told me that her son said, well, she's single now. You don't think she wants one of us to be her boyfriend, do you? My feminist brain goes in so many directions at this point that I have to remind myself that our focus tonight is teacher dress codes. Yet, we can't forget that people's perceptions of bodily appearance are influenced by sociocultural markers such as age, race, and class. This 12-year-old student knew this and mentioned some specific ones. He identified me as a woman, as a single woman, more exactly, a newly divorced woman, hence the she's single now. He knew that part of my personal life and inferred how this might make me behave in the presence of males, even those of the boy variety. Metaphorically, he'd written a story about me. Woman teacher loses man. Woman teacher immediately seeks new man, or boy, as the case was supposed. And that's a lot of supposing from a peak of partial undies. When I spoke with former high school teacher Erin, I knew that my story was not an isolated incident. In the late 1990s, Erin too had just gotten divorced. Erin too was contacted by a mother with concerns about her clothing. Erin too suspected that more was afoot than just her attire. While teaching about Latin American culture,